Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about Aero wheels. So this is my set of deep section 45mm wheels and I want to compare them to my stock wheels. I wanted to see what the difference between these two is. When I first got these carbon wheels, I put them on my bike. I thought, wow, these are awesome. But then I realized I need to check and go into a bit more depth because obviously when you spend loads of money on some Aero wheels, you're going to spend money on the tires, you're going to spend money on the inner tubes. But what I wanted to do was take that factor out and just compare the wheels themselves. So what I did is I got my old wheels, I got the same set of tires, so both of these are running Continental GP 5000s. So now the only factor is the wheel itself. The tire, the inner tube, all of that is taken out of consideration. So they're both set up tubeless and I decided to take them out on the same route and see what happened. There is one difference and that's just the tire width. The stock one is running 30mm tires and the deep section ones are running 25mm. I put the pressure in the stock ones, the wider tires, up to 60 psi, and the deep section Aero wheels I put up to 70 psi, so hopefully that shouldn't make too much difference. Anyway, so I went out on the road, did a route, and I did intervals at a set wattage and tried to get as close to that as possible, and then I went home, swapped the wheels, and did it again. So the route was 3.5 Ks along a quite quiet road. Obviously there are some factors I can't control, like the wind and the cars and stuff like that, but I tried my best to get clear runs each time. So for each wattage I did 2 runs, both there and back, so hopefully that will cancel out the wind effect, and each time I tried to get as clear a run as possible, but obviously those factors are sort of outside of my control. I can't control the wind, I can't control the traffic, but I tried my best. So I'll start with the Aero wheels, did 2 runs at 150 watts, 200 watts and 250 watts. And then I went home, changed to the stock wheels and did the same thing with those. So these are the results that I found. So I've got a big ass table here. So let's start with the Aero wheels. The first run I did took 7 minutes and 21 seconds, 157 watts, and that's an average speed of 28.8. That was the forward route, and then on the way back, it took me 8 minutes and 9 seconds, so 26 kilometers an hour at 153 watts. So that's the baseline test, and then I did it at 200 watts, so obviously we're expecting this to be a bit faster. So that's exactly what we found, another 50 watts, and I went 31.5 kilometers per hour, and then 29.7 kilometers an hour, so about 3 kilometers an hour faster. And then finally, I did it at 250 watts. The forward route took 6 minutes 24, so that's 33 kilometers an hour, a gain of 1.5 kilometers an hour. Then on the reverse, it took me 6 minutes and 35 seconds, 32.5 kilometers an hour. So yeah, that's a pretty big gain. So for your extra 100 watts, you're gaining about 5 kilometers per hour. Okay, so that's the baseline test done with the Aero wheels. Now, the interesting thing here is what the stock wheels do. So now they're on the same tire, set up tubeless, all the same. So now really the rim is the only factor. Hopefully the tire shouldn't make that much difference. That's what I expected anyway. So the first time we did it, it was 27.9 kilometers an hour. And that was slower than the Aero wheels by 1 kilometer an hour, which is what you expect. You expect the Aero wheels to be faster, considering everything else is the same. But then on the way back, I went 26.6 kilometers an hour, which is actually 0.6 kilometers an hour faster than the Aero wheels. So at 150 watts, one direction they were slower, one direction they were faster. So I don't really know what to make of that. It's not what I expected. I expected the Aero wheels to be faster all the time. So maybe it's just because it's a slow speed and there wasn't really enough aerodynamic drag for it really to make a difference. In all of these tests, bear in mind, I wore the same clothes, I tried to maintain the same position in the drops. So really, I did try very hard to make it a fair test each time. Okay, so let's up the power to 200 watts. So this is for the stock wheels. In the forward run, I ended up going 31.7 kilometers per hour, which is 0.2 kilometers per hour faster than the Aero wheels. Again, a very strange result. I was expecting the Aero wheels to be much faster. And then on the reverse coming back, it was 29.3, which is slightly slower than the Aero wheels, which is again a strange result. They're almost exactly the same speed. So it seems at this point, the wheels themselves aren't making much difference, which is very odd. I thought the difference would be much bigger. So as you increase in speed, you expect the aerodynamics to be more of a factor. So let's see if there's any difference at 250 watts. So on the outbound one at 250 watts, the stock wheels went 34.6 kilometers an hour, which was a lot faster than the Aero wheels. So it's 1.5 kilometers an hour faster. And the stock wheels are supposed to be slower than the Aero wheels, which was really, really weird. So on the reverse, let's see what happened. They went 32.7 kilometers an hour, which was again 0.2 kilometers faster than the Aero wheels. So this really confused me because these Aero wheels are expensive. They are deep section, they're lighter, they're made of carbon. They should be much, much faster than these stock wheels. So I wasn't really sure what the difference was, but then I figured maybe it's to do with the tires. I said they're the same tire, which they are, but they're not the same width, and I didn't set them up at the same pressure. They're both set up tubeless, but the Aero ones are 25 millimeters, and I ran these at 70 PSI. The stock wheels are 30 millimeters wide, and I ran them at 60 PSI. So that's the only real conclusion I can draw from this, that running a wider tire at a slightly lower pressure is enough of a difference to overcome the aerodynamic benefits of this wheel. Otherwise, then that must be the case. Otherwise, why would people spend so much money on a slightly deeper section Aero wheel if it performs exactly the same as this one? Of course, the carbon wheel does have some other advantages. It is much lighter than the stock wheel, but apparently it doesn't seem to be that much faster, which is strange. So yeah, those results are very strange, but obviously there's some caveats we need to take into account. It is the same tire, like I said, but the width is different. The Aero wheel had a thinner tire running at a higher pressure. The stock wheel had a wider tire running at a lower pressure. So it seems a wider tire at a lower pressure is faster than a thinner tire at a higher pressure, at least along my roads anyway. Of course, the wind is also a factor. I tried to do it on a day which wasn't too windy, but it's always windy here, so that didn't really work. And even though I did the test like half an hour apart, it's probably still gonna be a slight difference in wind. It was quite a gusty day, but that's what happens when you live near the sea. It's always windy, so yeah, not perfect conditions. Hopefully, maybe I could try again on a day where it's just completely still, but I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. Cars, there were a few cars, and occasionally one did like go in front of me, and then obviously I get a bit of a draft effect from that. I tried not to just sit behind cars like that, but I would have been there all day if I was waiting for perfectly clear runs every time. Most of the runs were pretty much exactly the same, so I don't think that's too big a factor. So what can I conclude from this? The stock wheels did very well. I didn't expect them to come anywhere close to the Aero wheels, to be honest, considering how expensive these are, how much lighter they are. The stock wheels did very well, I think. Normally I'm running the carbon wheels, but to be honest, if it's not a climbing day, I might put these ones on just because they're a bit wider and a bit more comfy. So the second conclusion is that the tire obviously makes a bigger difference than the aerodynamic profile, I think. So if you're thinking of upgrading your wheels, maybe upgrade your tires first. Don't go dropping like a K on some carbon wheels if you haven't already dropped like £100 on some new tires. It's definitely much better value for money to get new tires first. So I think wheels should be the last thing you upgrade really, because they're so expensive and I don't think you get that much performance from them. Tire width seems to make a big difference in the rolling resistance. The width is only 5 millimeters difference, but that seems to put the stock wheel on the same level as the deep section wheel, which is very surprising to be honest, considering the difference in price. You would have thought the Aero wheel would be a lot faster, but it wasn't. Conclusion number 4, weight doesn't really matter on the flat sections, which is something we probably already knew already, but you can't really feel a difference between the deep section wheel, the lighter wheel, and the heavy aluminium wheel. You really can't feel that much of a difference at all when you're on the flat road. When you're going up a hill, obviously this feels a lot nicer, but apart from that, is it really that much of a difference to be worth £1,000 or whatever this costs? Probably not for most people. Conclusion number 5. There is a lot more testing that I need to do because I need to put these both on exactly the same tire. Not just the same model of tire, it needs to be the same width at the same pressure. I think would make it a lot fairer. So yeah, I tried to do my best with this test. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that needs to be taken into account as well. But I think it's very interesting that the tire can bring the cheap wheel onto the same level as the expensive wheel. So definitely a consideration to take into account when you're thinking of upgrading. Anyway, thank you for watching. Links down in the description for if you want to support the channel. It really helps me out. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.